Hi everyone. Before we dive in, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss out on future content. Let's get started. The case took place on the night of April 17, 2005, in Los Angeles, USA, and shocked the local community. Nala Khan, a black woman of African descent, was brutally murdered by Philip Walker, a hired killer. The terrifying thing is that the case was masterminded by Madison Carter, the mother of Nala's boyfriend, Ethan Roberts. The motive for the murder stemmed from the hatred and racial prejudice that Madison had long harbored. She could not accept that her son had a relationship with Nala, and the tension in the family led to this extreme action. The case exposed the cruelty of social prejudice and family conflicts, making the community shocked and indignant at Madison's brutality and indifference. Ethan Roberts was born in 1978 and grew up in a middle-class family in Los Angeles. His family was not very wealthy but always created a full and safe living environment for Ethan. His parents, George and Madison Roberts, both worked hard to maintain the family's financial stability. George was a financial officer, while Madison stayed home to care for the family and keep the household in order. Ethan was raised in a disciplined yet caring and loving atmosphere. Since childhood, he has been known as a gentle, hardworking boy who always obeys the rules. He tried hard in his studies and was an exemplary student. Ethan was not a person who stood out in a crowd, but his easygoing personality and willingness to help others made him loved by his friends and those around him. Outside of school, Ethan often spent time helping his parents with housework and enjoying peaceful moments with his family. After graduating from high school, Ethan decided to pursue a career in information technology, a booming field at the time. He attended the University of California, Los Angeles, UCLA, where he not only achieved high academic results but also discovered a true passion for developing software and new technology solutions. Ethan has always been a progressive and hardworking person, often spending time studying on his own, researching the latest technologies, and improving his knowledge. After graduating from college, Ethan quickly found a steady job at a well-known tech company in Los Angeles. With his creative thinking and patient personality, he rapidly advanced in his career. He was highly regarded by his boss and colleagues for his problem-solving ability and sense of responsibility at work. Ethan's life began to stabilize as he gradually made a name for himself in the technology industry and secured a stable income. Despite his many achievements, he still maintained a simple and humble lifestyle. He did not like to show off or indulge in luxurious pleasures, but instead spent a lot of time with his family and maintained close relationships with friends. Ethan has always been a kind, decent man, respected by everyone for the moral values he pursued. However, within that successful and stable life, Ethan faced pressures from his family, especially from his mother, Madison. She has always held conservative views and high expectations for him, hoping he would pursue a perfect life according to her standards. Although Ethan respects his mother and tries to please her, their differing life views gradually caused hidden conflicts in their relationship. In contrast, Nala Khan, born in 1979, is of African descent and was raised in a family that, while not rich, was always full of love. Nala's parents worked hard to provide her with a fulfilling life and the best education possible. From a young age, she showed intelligence and determination to overcome difficulties, developing a strong sense of responsibility towards herself and her family. Throughout her high school and college years, Nala was an excellent student, excelling academically while also actively participating in extracurricular activities, particularly community support programs and helping the poor. With her friendly, sociable nature and willingness to listen, Nala easily built good relationships with friends and colleagues. Her enthusiasm and passion not only permeated her work but also defined how she treated those around her. After graduating from university, Nala decided to pursue a career in education, believing that through education, she could contribute to changing the lives of many, especially children from disadvantaged backgrounds. Nala worked hard and gradually built her career as a teacher and an inspiration to the younger generation. She always aimed to help students achieve good results in their studies while also developing their personalities comprehensively. Although not wealthy in material things, Nala was content with the life she had created for herself. finding her greatest joy in bringing positive change to others' lives through education. Her constant efforts and passion for her profession earned her respect from colleagues and affection from her students. Ethan and Nala first met on a warm evening in May 2003 at a fancy restaurant in Los Angeles. This restaurant was a place Ethan often visited after stressful work hours to relax and enjoy a delicious meal. Nala, who came to the restaurant at the invitation of a friend, did not expect that this would be the place where her life would change forever. Their meeting was unplanned, occurring completely by chance. While Ethan was waiting for his meal, his eyes accidentally met Nala's, who was sitting at a nearby table. From the very first moment, Ethan was captivated by Nala's natural beauty. She possessed elegance and simplicity, requiring no flashy or ostentatious outfits, yet she still shone attractively. Nala, with her bright smile and expressive eyes, immediately piqued Ethan's curiosity. Meanwhile, Nala felt Ethan's friendly and warm gaze. Soon, with the help of a waiter, they began chatting. Their initial conversation was lighthearted, featuring casual questions about work and life. Ethan shared details about his career in technology and his passion for developing software projects, while Nala, a teacher, discussed her meaningful work in education and her desire to provide better opportunities for her students. They quickly realized they had a lot in common, especially their passion and dedication to their respective fields, as well as their outlook on life. Ethan was not only attracted to Nala's beauty, but also to her intelligence and strong personality. Nala exuded confidence and independence, but was also very gentle and warm. These qualities made Ethan unable to take his eyes off her, and he decided he wanted to get to know her better. For Nala, Ethan's sincerity and gentleness made her feel safe and comfortable. He was unlike any other man she had ever met. He didn't just hear her out. He actually listened and understood. After that first unexpected evening, Ethan and Nala began seeing each other more often. At first, they had simple dates like having dinner together or taking a walk in the park. Gradually, their relationship developed into a deep love. Ethan always had sincere care and absolute respect for Nala. He always listened and supported her in every decision. On the other hand, Nala brought Ethan a new sense of life and enthusiasm for work. After 2 years of dating, their feelings grew deeper, and they gradually understood each other better, sharing their dreams and plans for the future. They talked about building a family where love and respect would be the foundation. Ethan, with his hardworking and gentle personality, always dreamed of a peaceful and happy home. Nala, with her independent yet loving personality, also wished to have a family where she could care for and devote all her love to the one she loved. In 2004, as Ethan and Nala's love affair grew stronger, cracks began to appear, not from within their relationship, but from the strong intervention of Ethan's mother, Madison Carter. Madison was a conservative woman who valued social status and background. When she discovered that her son was in love with a black woman, Madison immediately objected. Nala was not only different in skin color, but also a potential threat to her family's prestige and position in the upper-class community she valued. Mrs. Madison constantly expressed her dissatisfaction with this relationship. In her eyes, a woman like Nala, despite her intelligence and talent, was not worthy of being the Carter family's daughter-in-law. She believed that her son, a successful man in the technology industry, should marry a woman of equal background and status. Nala's humble background and different skin color made Madison fear that this relationship would weaken the family's standing in the eyes of friends and society. This became Madison's biggest concern, and she began to interfere heavily in Ethan and Nala's relationship. Ethan initially tried to appease his mother, hoping that time would help her understand and accept Nala. However, all his efforts failed. Madison not only refused to interact with Nala, but also constantly pressured Ethan, encouraging him to end the relationship. Despite loving his mother dearly, Ethan began to feel torn between his love for Nala and his responsibilities to his family. Tension became inevitable, especially as Ethan and Nala continued to bond and become more serious about building a future together. Nala, despite trying to remain calm and respectful to Madison, couldn't help but sense the hostility from her lover's mother. She understood that her skin color and background were unacceptable to Madison, and this hurt her. However, Nala loved Ethan and did not want to give up on this relationship just because of other people's prejudice. She believed that the love between them was strong enough to overcome any challenge. In late 2004, Ethan and Nala decided to officially plan their wedding despite Madison's objections. They had been together for almost 2 years, and both believed that marriage was the natural next step in their relationship. For Ethan, the love and respect he had for Nala outweighed any pressure from his mother. He understood that, in order to be happy, he must stand up for his relationship, even if it meant facing Madison's disapproval. However, this decision pushed Madison to the brink of anger. Not only did she feel betrayed by her own son, but she also saw Ethan's actions as a betrayal of all the values she had worked so hard to build over the years. Madison began to show hostility not only towards Nala but also towards Ethan. Family arguments became more frequent, and Madison repeatedly warned Ethan of the consequences if he did not end the relationship. Her opposition to Ethan's relationship with Nala became increasingly intense. She could not accept that her son would marry a woman whom she considered inappropriate in both skin color and background. Constant arguments between Ethan and Madison left her feeling betrayed and out of control over her son's life. Madison believed that if Nala were no longer there, everything would return to normal, and Ethan would return to her. From then on, negative and cruel thoughts began to form in her mind. Madison came to the decision that the only way to solve the problem was to eliminate Nala. She planned it coldly and calculatingly, without regard for the consequences of her actions. Within a short time, she came into contact with Philip Walker, a notorious hired killer in the criminal underworld. Philip Walker was a criminal who had carried out many contract killings without leaving a trace. He was the one Madison believed could execute her plan perfectly. Madison secretly met with Philip Walker and offered him a large sum of money to kill Nala. She no longer thought of simply preventing the marriage but truly believed that eliminating Nala was the only way. Madison did not hesitate to discuss this cruel plan, and Philip Walker, who had no mercy, agreed to carry out the assassination. She was willing to give up everything to maintain control over her son, even Nala's life. Bitterness, prejudice, and hatred turned Madison from a protective mother to a murderer who would not hesitate to hire someone to kill an innocent person. On the night of April 17, 2005, Ethan Roberts and Nala were walking in a quiet park in Los Angeles. The peaceful space and cool evening air made the two of them relax, chatting happily about life and the future. For Ethan and Nala, this was just another ordinary walk. But little did they know that a murderer was lurking in the shadows, preparing to carry out a brutal plan. Philip Walker, the professional killer hired by Madison Carter, had been following the two for a long time. He moved silently through the bushes and dark corners of the park, his eyes never leaving his target. Philip had been following Nala and Ethan for days, knowing their routines. He waited for the perfect opportunity, a secluded spot to strike without being noticed. When Ethan and Nala stopped by a bench near the lake, Philip realized this was the right moment. He approached quietly, each step light so as not to make any noise. Ethan and Nala continued to chat, unaware of the approaching danger. From a close enough distance, Philip pulled out a gun from his jacket. With cold and emotionless eyes, he aimed straight at Nala's head. It all happened in just a few short seconds, without warning and without any chance for resistance. The sharp sound of the gun rang out, tearing apart the silence of the park. The bullet hit Nala in the head, causing her to collapse on the spot, blood splattering everywhere and staining the green grass below red. Nala's body fell heavily and quickly lay still, no longer showing any signs of life. All that had just happened was like an unimaginable nightmare to Ethan, who was just a few steps away from her. Ethan stood there, his eyes wide open in disbelief. The woman he loved so deeply, who had been smiling and laughing happily just seconds ago, now lay motionless before him. Ethan's heart shattered in excruciating pain as he saw the crimson blood spreading under Nala's body. He screamed in despair, his scream echoing throughout the empty space. "Nala!" Ethan screamed, but there was no response. Nala couldn't hear him, couldn't answer, and never could again. In a panic, he rushed to her side, kneeling beside her, holding her body in his arms. Blood from Nala's wound soaked into Ethan's hands and clothes, but he felt nothing but emptiness and helplessness. Ethan's hands shook as he tried to shake Nala, hoping for some miracle to wake her. But the cruel reality was that Nala was gone, lifeless. The pain of loss was so great that Ethan was almost paralyzed. Tears began to fall down his cheeks, mixing with the indescribable pain. He tried to hold Nala's cold body as if that could bring her back. Meanwhile, Philip Walker stood not far away, coldly watching the scene he had just created. He showed no remorse or hesitation. To him, this was just another job done without leaving a trace. Philip quickly stuffed the gun into his coat and quietly left the scene. No one knew he had been there, and he disappeared without a sound, leaving Ethan in anguish. In his panic, Ethan couldn't understand why anyone would want to kill Nala. Why had their lives been destroyed in a moment like this? Questions raced through his mind, but he couldn't find the answers. The pain of loss was so great that Ethan felt like he couldn't breathe. At that moment, everything around him seemed to stop. Ethan's world was completely shattered. Moments before, the two of them had been happily discussing the future. Now, all their hopes and dreams were taken away by a random bullet, by the hatred and cruelty of the person behind it. In extreme panic and pain, Ethan started calling the police with shaking hands and sadness. When the alarm went off at Los Angeles Police Headquarters on the night of April 17, 2005, an investigative team was quickly dispatched to the park, where Ethan Roberts had just made a panicked phone call reporting the murder. When they arrived at the scene, police found Ethan slumped over the lifeless body of Nala Khan, his eyes filled with tears, his hands tightly holding Nala's. His mouth kept stuttering painful words. It took the police a while to separate Ethan from his lover's cold body and take him aside to take his initial statement. The crime scene was quickly sealed off, and investigators began collecting evidence. Bloodstains, footprints in the grass, and what remained of the bullet were recorded and sampled. However, at this point, there was still no indication of the killer's identity to investigators. This was a sudden murder, with no signs of robbery or a normal conflict. In a state of shock, Ethan tried to give the police information. He recounted what had happened, from the gunshots to the image of Nala falling to the ground, but he could not clearly identify the attacker in the darkness. Ethan could only see the silhouette of the killer quickly leaving him and Nala in an unbelievable tragedy. The initial investigation focused on finding the killer. Investigators followed footprints and searched for witnesses around the park, but no one had a clear look at the assassin's face. It was expected to be a difficult and lengthy case, but after only a few days, clues began to appear. Strange clues in Ethan's statements about his family, especially the strained relationship between Ethan and his mother, Madison Carter, led investigators to begin to suspect that the murder might not have been a random act. As detectives further investigated Ethan's personal life, they discovered that Madison Carter had a clear motive for opposing Ethan and Nala's marriage. Madison's friends and acquaintances reported that she was extremely angry and could not accept that her son loved and intended to marry a black woman. Madison, with her conservative ideas and obsession with social status, tried many times to break up the couple, but Ethan remained steadfast in his love. Investigators decided to follow Madison more closely, and they quickly discovered her connection to a man named Philip Walker, a notorious contract killer in the criminal underworld. Philip had been involved in several contract killings, and his reputation made it easy for the police to put him on the top suspect list. After gathering enough evidence, the police decided to arrest Philip Walker. He was apprehended at an apartment in the suburbs of Los Angeles just a few weeks after the murder of Nala. At the time of his arrest, Philip did not appear panicked or resistant. On the contrary, he was very calm. This made investigators even more certain that he had been paid a large sum of money to carry out the murder. During his interrogation at the police station, Philip was initially tight-lipped and unwilling to reveal any information. He knew full well the crimes he had committed and had no intention of confessing. However, after being confronted with evidence of his connection to Madison Carter, Philip began to waver. The police discovered money transactions between Madison and Philip and secret phone calls she made to plan the murder. Under constant pressure from interrogation and with no way to escape, Philip Walker finally confessed that Madison Carter was the one who hired him to carry out Nala's assassination. He detailed how Madison contacted him, offering him a large sum of money and asking him to kill Nala to prevent her marriage to Ethan. Madison believed that Nala's death would bring Ethan back under her control, and he carried out the murder without hesitation. With Philip's confession, the police quickly turned their investigation to Madison Carter. She was arrested at her home, and when questioned, Madison initially denied all charges. She maintained her innocence and insisted she had nothing to do with Nala's death. However, faced with undeniable evidence of her connection to Philip Walker, Madison gradually lost her composure. The Madison Carter and Philip Walker case quickly attracted public and media attention. When it was brought to trial, the trial took place in a tense and emotional atmosphere, with many people attending and reporters closely following every development. Madison and Philip were both charged with premeditated murder and faced serious charges. The prosecutor detailed the incontrovertible evidence of Madison's premeditated murder plot, describing how she contacted and hired Philip Walker to kill Nala out of racial hatred and a desire to control her son. Philip's testimony, along with the money transactions and communications between the two, clearly demonstrated Madison's guilt. Not only did she commit murder, but she also ruined the life of her own son, Ethan Roberts, who was thrust into an unimaginable tragedy. At the end of the trial, Madison Carter and Philip Walker were both sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. For the Roberts family, this marked the end of a dark and painful chapter. Ethan, who witnessed the destruction of his love and family, lost both his mother and his lover because of Madison's personal hatred and prejudice.